Just an all-around disaster in Houston. Before the game, it had disastrous elements. And just a few minutes in, Jimmy Butler went down. He's out. And an MRI is what is really going to determine this season. Fingers crossed. Let's talk about everything that went down as the series is tied up 1-1.
You are Locked On Warriors.
Stop trying to turn the page on us so fast.
Your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
We got 4 championships.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Every team has a chance if Steph's on the team.
Your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Warriors. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Ways that you can check out the show, YouTube, wherever you get your audio podcasts. If you are hanging out with us on YouTube, make sure you hit that like. Make sure you hit that subscribe. Leave a comment on your thoughts after the Golden State Warriors fall to the Houston Rockets at Toyota Center in H-Town, 109-94, the final score in the game. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We do have a free daily newsletter that will send Warriors news, notes, and nuggets your way, plus news from around the NBA. A couple of guests today. It's Kylen Mills, formerly of Tron 4 in the Bay Area, NBC Sports Bay Area, now works at the Big Ten Network. You can see her on various networks calling basketball games. And Matt Kolsky, formerly of KNBR 95.7 The Game. Myself, I'm Charlie Walter, formerly of 95.7 The Game with Kolsky, and also CBS News Bay Area. I think we know where to start. The game deserves some breakdown because there were some interesting elements throughout, most notably the play of Jalen Green. If he rises to 38-point Jalen Green like he did tonight, it's a completely different Rockets team than we saw a couple days ago. They didn't even need a monster night from Şengün to coast to a victory. But why they coasted to a victory, it's very simple. Jimmy Butler went down minutes into the game, and the Warriors were shell-shocked. Brandin Podziemski had food poisoning. He was throwing up some of the ugliest bricks you'll ever see in your life. It was just doomed from pretty much the get-go. And it was a catch-22 because Amen Thompson, who undercut Jimmy Butler on the play, Butler falls on his back and suffers the pelvic contusion. That was his third foul. So in the moment, you're like, all right, if Butler can shake this thing off, he's got 3. And Dillon Brooks has 3. Like, the Warriors could have a good chance to win this basketball game. And unfortunately, Butler had to go to the locker room. It was announced very early that he would not return. Here's the deal. MRI is expected tomorrow, Thursday, for Jimmy Butler. The Warriors have dealt with a couple of these pelvic contusions. Steph Curry fell. Remember, Jonathan Kuminga went down. Curry missed 2 games. Kuminga missed 1. So let's start there. Kylen, Jimmy Butler going down. What are your initial thoughts in terms of him? I mean, he's a tough guy. In terms of him being ready to go for Saturday.
My initial thought when that play happened was just, oh no, because the Warriors don't come out of the series without Jimmy Butler. It was an extremely hard hit. There are a lot of questions right now about whether there was a push from Draymond Green, whether that was intentional, should that have been elevated to some type of flagrant foul. I think it could have. I don't know. It was tough because on a couple different angles, like some ways it didn't look like he was pushed. Some angles did look like there was some contact from Draymond. But regardless, just unfortunate to see Jimmy Buckets go down earlier in this game and go down hard. My fear is that if it's like other hip or, pelvic contusions, lower back contusions, he could be out a couple games. We saw Steph miss 2 games earlier this season because of that. And he's had tailbone issues as well that have kept him out an extensive amount of time. I don't think it was the tailbone though. Like, I think it was more of a hip issue. And you hope that the Warriors can sneak out a game without Jimmy Butler moving forward. I mean, the thing is, like I said, I just think that he's way too instrumental. We talked all last game about the importance and the significance of his role with this Warriors team. He has to be the A to the B, and especially with how physical this Rockets team has been playing, they need a Jimmy Butler, because I just thought in this game, the Rockets came out and punched the Warriors in the mouth right from tip-off. And I don't mean figuratively. I mean literally. They were hitting the dubs, and I just cannot get over how many calls Steph Curry doesn't get. And I don't want to start off the episode by blaming everything on the refs, because I do think whining about the officials gets old. But to me, this is a very legitimate situation where this game could have got out of control because of, to me, the lack of officiating. And like, I'm all for letting guys play, but like Steph is getting grabbed, he's getting held. Like, we watched so many replays, Charlie and I did. I don't know if you'll agree with this, Kolsky, where we were both like, that's a foul. That's a foul. They're grabbing his hips, they're grabbing whatever. So I think you could point to a lot of different reasons why. But like you said, Chuck, I just feel like from the get-go, it felt like they came out and hit first. Obviously, Jalen Green gets red hot, but I think that there was a lot of wind out of the Warriors' sails when Jimmy Butler went down, and especially early in this game, I just feel like it piled up in addition to a couple of fouls not being called. So this was a game that felt like it was decided early. The Warriors, I think, put in some effort down the stretch. They didn't throw in the towel until late, but even when they got within 11 or 12, like, I don't know that I ever had belief that they were going to come back in this game. So I think you walk away, like, you split in Houston isn't a disaster the first 2 games on the road. Like, I think you still feel good, but you only feel good if Jimmy Butler comes back.
Yeah.
If Butler's out, like,
yeah,
more than one game, if he even out 2 games, like, can the Warriors split in the Bay, and then like you hope that Jimmy's back, and then you can take the series? Like, do they win the next 2 without Jimmy? I guess that's my big question. If I'm just saying, like, if he was out for 2 games, for example, comparing to a similar injury with Steph earlier this year.
Here's
so
the
that's
thing.
the reason why I don't feel good. Otherwise, I'm like, who cares? Like, you know what? You split on the road against the number 2 seed. It's not the end of the world.
When you lose Jimmy Butler, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say Boston loses Tatum,
Jalen Brown.
Let's say Jalen Brown,
Yeah.
and Peyton Pritchard has food poisoning like Pods did today. It looks a little bit different than the Warriors throwing out, Pat Spencer and Guy Santos, who had horrible minutes tonight. They even went to Jonathan Kuminga many times in the game today. Steve Kerr was like, I'm running Pat Spencer out there. May as well tell Kuminga to throw off the warm-ups and, hop in the game. Kolsky, your thoughts on Jimmy Butler? He's a tough cookie. You would have to think that with a few days rest, there's going to be some sort of shots down there on the butt. And hopefully, like Forrest Gump, he can get back out there.
Yeah, if he doesn't play Saturday, I think he'll play Tuesday. You got a lot of time. The question to me is not whether he plays, it's how he looks. There was a rebound in the first quarter where it looked like he almost bumped his head on the rim. And the Jimmy Butler we saw when he first showed up wasn't bouncy like that. He was tough. He was smart. He was doing a lot of good things, but it's only over the past couple weeks that he's started to look really the athlete that he needs to be playoff Jimmy. And that's what I would be worried about. If it's not just that they need him on the floor. He's tough. He's going to get back on the floor in this series. I would almost guarantee it. The question is, can he be the true 1A to Steph's number 1? Because if not, none of this matters. Even if they did manage to beat the Rockets, it would be quick work in the next round. And I got to say, at this pace of violence, whoever wins this series is going to be one beat up team, man. This is going to take a lot out of everybody. And if Butler can get out there on Saturday, I think you just got your balls to the wall to do everything you can to end this series as quickly as possible. Because the Warriors with Butler are, I think, pretty clearly the better playoff team anyway. Without him, you saw it. Tonight's going to be really tough. It'll help if Podziemski's healthy. You would think if Kuminga is going to get 25 plus minutes in Butler's absence, he'll look a lot less rusty next time. But, who knows? That you've gotten yourself in a weird spot with him. And even if everybody was okay and playing well, like we saw this team without Jimmy Butler, it's not good enough. So this all hangs on the results of the MRI and maybe more importantly, the results of that first quarter that we see Jimmy back on the floor.
Crazy thing is, someone in the chat pointed it out. He's like, Chuck, what are you talking about? Pat Spencer was awesome. No, I'm just stating a fact that he is technically a G leaguer, right? Like, he's a G League guy.
And guys,
he was awesome. He had 9 points in like 2 minutes at one point in the game. He should have gotten some more run.
we got to get away from falling in love with these guys. With all due respect, if Pat Spencer is playing double-digit minutes in a playoff game, you're a word I can't say on this podcast. It's not what you want. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm glad he hit some shots tonight. Good for Pat. That's not it. So you can be happy. And it's the same thing with the people talking about Kuminga's a clown because he missed some layups tonight. The guy's been collecting dust and jerked around by this franchise. If people or Steve Kerr want to use tonight after he was forced to play despite you sending every message that you hate him, if you want to use tonight a few missed layups as, the judgment that, oh, see, I told you that guy sucks, whatever. I don't know how to talk basketball with you. Like, it's just, you need Jimmy Butler, and if you don't have Brandin Podziemski, like, Pat Spencer's not a good answer. He's just not.
Let's get to the good, bad, and the ugly from this game. It was mainly bad and uglier, but there was a little good, I think, to point at. And it wasn't Steph Curry getting a bunch of rest in the fourth quarter. Quentin Post made sure that's a tease. It's coming up on Locked On Warriors.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
All right. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Who doesn't love gaming? Tell you what. Oh, hold on. Had a little heartburn there. No console is required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and you could do it on your Fire TV. That is the latest technology for elevated playing, and you could get endless entertainment with more than 1.5 million movies. I didn't even know they made that many movies. So TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. It's available on select devices, including the Fire Stick TV 4K 2nd Gen, the Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd generation, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. All right, let's get back to the show.
Very, very, very happy that I'm not getting suspended no more.
So how it went down, Warriors were not looking good when Jimmy Butler went down, but that was also 6 minutes into the first quarter. There was a lot to be said about what would happen from there. We mentioned Podziemski was dealing with some illness, and it showed. In his 14 minutes, he was 0 of 5. He was a -11, literally just zeros across the stat sheet. And Steve
Just
Kerr
looked
decided to
ill.
go back to him. Yeah, he looked ill. I mean, he did not look
agreed.
good out there, IV or not. Didn't play well. Curry did lead the way with 20 points. Quentin Post had a flurry at the end of the game where even the broadcasters were like, is it time that Steve Kerr, potentially sits down Steph Curry, Draymond Green, gets ready for game 3? Warriors are down 20 with 9 minutes to go. And they made it a little bit spicy down the stretch. They got it to 11 multiple times. It was Jalen Green just hitting big shot after big shot and going on personal 5-0 runs whenever the Warriors would get to within 11. But they were down 11 at one point after Draymond Green knocks down a free throw, a chance to pull it within 8 on a Draymond Green 3, missed it, and that just kind of encapsulates the game today. Like, you go up and down this roster, and when Jimmy Butler's not on the floor, it is glaring the lack of dudes that this team has, Kylen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the depth was a huge issue, and I agree with something Kolsky said before the break in that, like, I'm not so much concerned or happy about Pat Spencer's performance in and of itself. Like, I thought he played well for what his skill set is, but the problem is that with one member of your backcourt in Brandin Podziemski getting sick, that's who we're going to in this rotation. And Jimmy, and I got into it with some people on Twitter who were just saying like, oh, well, Jimmy Butler. I'm like, dude, like Jimmy Butler doesn't play the same position. Give JK some minutes. I don't understand why Moses Moody didn't play almost the entire second quarter. He went in the last like 20 seconds. So I was like, what, like, why are you saying Pat Spencer is getting Jimmy Butler's minutes? Like, this does not make sense. And there was like the weirdest lineup of all time where it was like JK, Draymond, I can't remember though if it was Quentin Post. At one point, it was definitely 3 guard because
no, it was Santos.
Santos. That's what it was. Santos, Curry, and Pat Spencer, and it was awful. And I was like, what's happening here? And I just don't think. And like I said, Pat Spencer, I think especially on offense, he made some good decisions. He hit some shots. Honestly, that bank 3 was maybe a little lucky, but hey, we'll take it at that point because no one else was hitting threes. But he did have a couple shooting fouls defensively. One was a 3-point play, and another one where someone went to the line and made 2 shots. Because I just think that like Steph and Pat Spencer in the backcourt was just the weirdest thing to me. And I just think the issue was like, how is this our early second quarter rotation? Like, I was just like, what's happening here? And I know Brandin Podziemski was sick, but still, like this is where we're at in our rotation. So I don't know. Some people were coming at me and saying, oh, well, Pat Spencer's the only guy playing well. That's fine. Pat Spencer can be playing well. The point is the guy hasn't played in 2 weeks and he was on a G League contract until 2 weeks ago and now, or until the end of March. And now this is the guy that you're turning to at the beginning of the second quarter in a very important second playoff matchup. In addition to Guy Santos, honestly, I don't think so. I didn't think his minutes were great, honestly. And I love Enter Guy, but I was not impressed with him tonight. It's baffling to me. And I thought that second quarter rotation was problematic. Like it was not good.
Speaking of G Leaguers, I would have rather seen Kevin Knox than Buddy Hield minutes that he gave tonight. Kolsky.
I want to see no G Leaguers. Is that too much to ask? I don't want to see any G Leaguers in a playoff game.
Just like the idea that we are talking about Kevin Knox when Jonathan Kuminga has been on ice is so absurd. And Kylen is absolutely right. Steve Kerr made a whole point of telling us Kuminga couldn't play because he can't afford to have a non-shooter out there with Draymond and Jimmy. And yet Guy Santos is playing in that spot.
Pat Spencer is shooting 22% from 3 in NBA games this season. He hit the bank shot, but he's 22% from 3.
He banked in his only 3,
when it comes to floor space.
Ride the hot hand. He was awesome early.
Oh, God. And just the Moses Moody point to me is the key one.
Yeah.
What on earth? Moses Moody finally has the shot falling. He played 10 minutes in the first half. Why?
To me.
That's so much of what is done makes no sense. And you spend all this time talking about what you can't afford to have on the floor. And then when you finally put Kuminga out there because you're forced to, Looney, Santos, and Peyton are all out there at the same time. Make it make sense. And like, I get it. I've become a meme talking about Jonathan Kuminga, but the great irony of this is that I'm not even that high on the guy. He didn't play well tonight. And I think there are various reasons you could point to for that, but I'm not telling you Jonathan Kuminga is an all-star. I'm telling you he is by far the best option you have in a variety of scenarios, and it is weird that the head coach seems to be running a campaign against the guy who matters to your team, whether it's as a player or as an asset. It's bizarre.
Well, it got to a certain point where he looked up and down the bench and he's like, damn, they got Tari Eason, they got Jabari, they got Jalen Green, they got Şengün and Steven Adams on the floor at the same time. Like, maybe we should take out Peyton and put in Kuminga and see what happens. But I like that fun. Hops in the comments says, you guys are going to blame the loss on Jimmy. You guys are pathetic. Look, Jimmy Butler or not, like, that was a game you probably weren't going to win. You were 3.5-point underdogs. And if Jalen Green's playing like that, like, good luck, man. I mean, they're going to destroy you on the glass every single game. They do it again to the Rockets with 11 offensive rebounds, but it felt like 9 of them were early before the Warriors went to that zone.
That's what I was going to say. It was also the glass and turnovers early for the Warriors. They had 9 turnovers before the half, some that were, like, to me, sloppy, preventable, live ball situations where you're turning the ball over and giving away baskets. Then also the offensive glass killed them. It wasn't just Jimmy, but I think obviously Jimmy was a huge factor, and it felt like that's where the train really went off the tracks.
No, but here's the thing. Like, Houston is not good at putting the ball in the basket, and the big glaring weakness from their game one loss was the fact that Van Fleet and Jalen Green couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. Van Fleet is still basura right now. He went 1 of 7 from 3, but Jalen Green 8 of 18. When you add that in with Şengün and Tari Eason's energy and Thompson's defense, and Dylan Brooks had 16, he was getting the mid-ranger to fall. Like, Houston's not a bad team. We know this. Like, I said Warriors in 6. I still think it's going to be an extremely competitive series, regardless of injuries or not. So to win 2 in Houston was a tall task, Jimmy Butler or not. So to answer your question, that's the fairest way I can answer it. No, I'm blaming nothing on Jimmy Butler. I'm just saying when Butler goes down 6 minutes into the game, I mean, it was over.
I'm blaming it on Jimmy Butler. I mean, might they have lost anyway? Sure, of course. But their defense is significantly better with Jimmy Butler, and he's a scoring option on a night when they didn't have any. So, yeah, like, when a team loses their second best player 8 minutes after playing 8 minutes, yeah, we're going to talk about that as a factor in why they lost the basketball game. There were other factors, you know, there were plenty of other factors.
That was a big one. Like, I'm
that's
with
a big
you.
one.
You going to go, Kai?
Oh, I don't know. Do you want me to add to it? I mean, yeah, no, I'm agreeing with Kolsky and backing up whatever the response was to the troll in the comments, and that I think it's a huge factor when your second best player goes down and goes to the locker room with a really, and it was a tough looking play too. Like, it wasn't something that looked minor. It looked painful. And he not only is the Warriors' second best player, but we already talked last game about all the things he does for the Dubs that, like, they can't replicate. Like, they don't have an exact number 2 to replace Jimmy Butler in a similar way that you'd say about Steph. Like, you know what I mean? Steph goes out, like, they've got some guys that can hit threes, but no one's going to do what Steph can do because Steph is a generational talent. I mean, Jimmy Butler is a how many time All-Star? He
had 5 steals in the last game. 5 steals. He had 5 steals.
He had 5 steals, so he does a ton defensively in addition to the 25 points he poured in. Again, the second best player on the team. And so I think it's a huge factor. It's not the only reason. Like I said, I think the first half, especially because that's when the Warriors went down big and they never were able to climb back in it. There were some bad turnovers. The team looked discombobulated after Jimmy went down. I just think there were bad connections, bad rotations throughout the second quarter. And then they were getting beat up on the glass and they were getting pushed around. I thought the Warriors weren't getting the whistle, and they also were getting pushed around flat out. Like, they weren't giving it back to Houston to some degree, which fair or not fair because the refs aren't calling it. Like, you got to hit back. And I just felt like in that first half, it just felt like the Warriors were getting hit over and over and over again. They're getting beat up on the glass and they're giving the ball away. And you just lose all the momentum at some point to where it feels like it's hard to get it back. And especially when then you've got some weird wonky rotations with random guys who haven't played together, haven't played in however many weeks. Like, I just think that's hard to come back from. When you're down by 14, 15 at the half and you haven't had a lead all game, like, that's a big hole to climb out of. And, from that point on, I wasn't feeling really confident they were going to. I thought they gave it a good run, but, the Rockets still deserve credit. Don't get me wrong. But I think that Jimmy Butler going down was a very, instrumental turning point in this game. There's no question about it.
Series is tied up at 1 apiece as we head back to the Bay Area. And I would imagine that the Rockets are going to be treated like the Memphis Grizzlies were a few years ago. I mean, we see the Dylan Brooks angle on that team and just the way that they play, a frustrating team to play against. We're going to discuss this little rivalry that's brewing that's coming up on Locked On Warriors.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you could be a part of it without stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand's sky high. Prices on the app usually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Why I use Game Time, it's the last-minute deals. Kylen knows this. I'm not buying tickets 2 weeks in advance. I'm not a nerd. I'm buying tickets about 30 minutes before tip, and that means I'm getting 60% off, potentially, yes. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
Good news, bad news. Let's start with the bad news. We've already gotten it out of the way. The Warriors lost. That's the bad news. The good news is that they will have Draymond Green in game 3. And for a little bit at the end there, when we thought he was potentially going to be ejected, and when I heard technical foul, I'm thinking, oh no, are they going to lose Curry? Or are they going to lose Draymond again for game 3 of what needs to be a W, especially if Jimmy Butler's not out there? You need Draymond Green. And instead they call the technical on Tari Eason for throwing a towel, the towel man. So you got Eason, who great player, brings a ton of energy, but as a Warriors fan, I don't think you love Tari Eason when you're on the other side. I'm sure Rockets fans love him. Same way with Dylan Brooks, Şengün, Floppy McFlopperson, a great player again, but just frustrating, whines a lot, right? And granted, we're in our own shoes. Like, we understand they hate Draymond Green. We heard them. We understand why Rockets fans hate Draymond Green. But this is starting to feel like Memphis back in 21-22. You see that rivalry being born, Kolsky? Reborn? Rebirth?
Yeah, this to me is not a rivalry. This is the Memphis Grizzlies all over again. It's a bunch of dudes who haven't done anything, talking incredibly tough, fouling a lot, and probably losing a series if the other team stays healthy. Like, it's just... I don't know. Watching guys like Dylan Brooks makes me really angry. I don't know how else to say it. And Draymond is different, man. Beyond the fact that he has one, and like Draymond Green doesn't come out and like that poke bears thing that someone in the chat just brought up with LeBron. Like, Dylan Brooks does dumb stuff. Yeah, he does edgy, physical stuff too, but he doesn't have a brain like Draymond. Like, he's dumb. I don't know how he is as a human. As a basketball player, he's dumb. And to me, I kind of chuckle and shake my head at them. I don't know. Like, okay, if you win, then we got a rivalry. Then talk your stuff. But, like, calm down, you guys. And frankly, Fred VanVleet, somebody should talk to them. I don't. How is Dylan Brooks? He's doing the same thing he did the first time the Grizzlies got beat by the Warriors. How many times did they get beat with him doing the same thing? And now he's doing it again as a Rocket. Like, I don't see the upside, but I guess that's just me. And I am looking at it from a Warriors perspective, I suppose. But those guys, like, all right, congratulations on splitting the 2 games at home, I guess, but maybe just chill a little.
Thoughtful answer there. Kylen, how we feeling? Entering game 3, it's back in the Bay. Jimmy Butler, we'll have to wait till tomorrow about the MRI, but let's assume Jimmy Butler's all right. He gets a couple days of rest. He's a full go, 95% on Saturday. I mean, a week ago, he'll take a split in Houston. I think anyone would take a split in Houston. How do you feel entering game 3?
I think it all is really dependent on what the results are of this MRI. I mean, once we get a timetable for Jimmy, then I can tell you how I feel about the rest of the series. If Jimmy's back, great. Then we need to see how back is Jimmy, because getting cleared to play is not the same thing as being 100%. I think Kolsky made that point earlier in the episode, and it's spot on, because just because he's cleared, does that mean he's 100% ready to go in an extremely physical series where he's going to have to battle on the glass? He's going to have to be playing through contact inside. He's going to have to be really, hustling when it comes to defensive plays and getting stuck in and things like that. So it's like, is he going to be able to handle that kind of contact and physicality? So I think those two things need to be determined to really be able to say how I feel about the rest of the series moving forward. That being said, I think Jimmy's back. It's still very winnable for the Dubs. I feel good about that. I think if Jimmy's back the next 2 games and even like 80 to 90%, like even if he's not 100, I think these are very winnable games. I would like to see the officiating be a little bit tighter. I was concerned at some point in this game that multiple people were going to get thrown out. I was concerned that more people were going to get hurt. There definitely were some fouls that were, to me, getting to be over the top. So I just think this is one of those situations where you have to be careful before someone does something dumb. Someone like a Dylan Brooks, and honestly, Draymond Green has done the same thing. So I'm not going to, let him off the hook either. Someone does something dumb, and then someone actually does get seriously hurt. You look at what happened to GP2 a couple of years ago, since he brought up, the Grizz and all that stuff. Like, I that's the main reason why I bring up the officiating is like, you have to get things under control. And I felt like there was a point in this game where it didn't feel like the refs had control. So I think Jimmy's health needs to be determined. I'll be curious to see how these games get officiated. I think regardless, this should be winnable for the Warriors. But, they've got it. Like I said, they've got to battle on the glass. They've got to eliminate some of the turnovers they did early in the game. If Jimmy's back, I think that changes things. If Jimmy's out, then, you got to replicate not just what he does defensively, but 25 points on the offensive end. And tell you what, Guy Santos wasn't doing it tonight. As good as Pat Spencer was, again, the fact you're going to Guy early in this game, and I don't think it was his best performance. I would like to see, what this team looks like with Jimmy back. I just feel a lot better, and I don't know. I guess I feel like just a lot is hanging in the balance on Jimmy right now. If Jimmy ends up being out for longer term, then I think we're in serious trouble.
I think with or without Jimmy, Houston's tough. Like, that's the moral of the story. I thought all these games were going to be close, and the reason that I was riding with the Warriors, along with personal bias, is just because of the been there, done that. But again, I mean, it comes down to a few players for Houston knocking down shots. And when Jalen Green hits 8 3-pointers, like, good luck. This team's issue is not stopping other teams. It's making shots.
I do want to mention really quickly, there were times where the Warriors were still not on Jalen Green beyond the arc. And I was like, dude, like, he's hit 6 threes. Like, why is anybody sagging off of him at this point or not all over him?
That was the chat's favorite players, Guy Santos and Pat Spencer, leaving him alone. And one time Steph Curry hedging down unnecessarily when Draymond Green was playing good defense. So yeah, it's the same offenders making the same mistakes and not getting blamed for them. Anyway, to me, the key point is the refs. And I'm gonna start by answering a question that's been posed several times in the chat by saying, no, the NBA is not rigged. And then I'm going to say, I would expect a much tighter whistle in San Francisco on Saturday.
Yep.
They let them play. If you like a rock fight, you like this one. Although
and you know what? I think the NBA doesn't mind a rock fight in this series. Game 1, I think they would have been fine with. The way it's not about even favoring the Warriors to me as much as it's about the fact that there were 3 almost fights tonight. That's what I think the NBA reacts to. And Scott Foster's out with an injury, but you're going to see a veteran crew and some early whistles on Saturday would be my prediction.
Yeah, and Steph Curry was visibly angry with the calls. You saw Steve Kerr early. I thought he almost got a technical saying, what are we doing, Zebras? What are we doing in this game? And the Rockets able to win it by 15. And now the fate of the Warriors relies on a butt evaluation. Jimmy Butler and the pelvic contusion. Is he going to be okay? I think he is. As of right now, all signs are pointing to wait and see. But based on what we know about the pelvic contusions from Kuminga and Curry earlier in the season, you would have to think that, have to hope that he's going to return in this series. The question is he going to return on Saturday? This is Locked On Warriors. Peace, everyone.
Get healthy.